An exclusive look into a notorious gang, an elite group comprised of ex-Mexican military members who have evolved into one of the deadliest forces working the U.S.-Mexico border. They are Los Zetas.
For the sake of retaining his power as a drug cartel leader, he threatened to kill 2 U.S. agents, killed his very own friend, and ran a violent criminal gang for years. This is the case of notorious Mexican drug cartel Lord Osiel Cárdenas Guillén, who was brought to justice both in Mexico and the U.S. What went wrong, and how did authorities take hold of him? Let's find out in this video. Born on May 18, 1967, Cárdenas Guillén worked as a mechanic long before he got into the world of drug trafficking and money laundering. He started out working at lower ranks in drug syndicates before eventually getting a big name in the drug trafficking industry, especially as the leader of the Gulf Cartel. Gulf Cartel, the infamous Mexican drug empire, was formerly run by Juan Garcia Abrego, but after his arrest in 1996, it longed for a leader. At the time, it was making billions of dollars from drug trafficking by partnering with Colombian drug traffickers. They had to hide this money by sending it across the border using suitcases, private jets, and underground tunnels. They were soon able to form a big drug delivery network throughout the United States, from Houston to Atlanta, New York, and Los Angeles.
This is the moment Marines raided a property in Mexico, leading to the arrest of the most wanted drug lord in the world.
By the 1990s, the Gulf Cartel became giant enough to stand next to the other successful Colombian drug syndicates, delivering major drugs between Mexico and the US. They even bribed politicians, government officials, police, and the Attorney General's office to run their business smoothly. After Abrego's arrest, many came and took charge of the Gulf Cartel, but none lasted long. Some were assassinated, and others were arrested until Cárdenas Guillén took the lead in 1997 after murdering the co-leader of the Gulf Cartel and his close friend Salvador Gómez Herrera. He took the Gulf Cartel to the next level. This was when he became known as Friend Killer. Guillén wanted to guard his thriving Gulf Cartel and himself from rival gangs and the Mexican military. For this reason, he formed a criminal wing by contacting Arturo Guzmán de Sena, an army lieutenant who reportedly received training from the Israeli military. He asked him to find the best men for his criminal wing. Guzmán, in turn, left the Mexican army and hired at least 40 soldiers of Mexican special forces and some soldiers from his paratrooper brigade, who also left the army to work as security enforcers for the Gulf Cartel. They were offered salaries 3 times more than the Mexican army paid them. Among the prominent soldiers were Jaime González Durán, Jesus Enrique Rejón Aguilar, and Heriberto Lacano. This criminal wing was known as Los Zetas. The main reason for hiring soldiers from the military was their extraordinary knowledge of weapons and explosives. These soldiers were professional sharpshooters and knew how to operate weapons that most drug traffickers didn't know of. They had the potential to carry out operations in almost every environment, making them fitting members of Los Zetas and, according to Cárdenas's, violent nature.
¿Quién son los Zetas? Zetas es un grupo armado que levanta a cualquier tipo de gente, la mata, la secuestra, les roba sus casas y las desaparece. Hay diferente tipo de forma de desaparecerlas.
Their power allowed them to get their hands on mighty weapons, like 50 caliber machine guns to use in drug wars. They took part in several violent attacks within the country, while also arranging kidnappings, imposing taxes, collecting debts, running a protection racket and extortion business, looking after the cocaine supply, and slaying rivals, migrants, and other innocent people. Finally, it became the deadliest and bloodiest criminal gang in Mexico's drug war.
Making their way into the building after firing several shots and detonating grenades.
But soon, everything changed, and Los Zetas lost a big leader. In 2002, Guzmán was killed at the hands of the Matamoros army, and Lazcano took charge of Los Zetas. Years after, in 2010, Los Zetas began functioning on its own and cut ties with Gulf Cartel.
After firing several shots and detonating grenades.
In 1999, DEA agent Dubois and FBI agent Fuentes were assigned to gather information on the leaders of the Gulf Cartel in Mexico. On the afternoon of November 9th, Dubois and Fuentes were traveling through the city of Matamoros in a white Ford Bronco. They both knew the streets of the city since they had been working against the cartel for years. In the back seat, a famous Mexican reporter and informant who worked in specialized crime reporting seated. He guided them toward the houses of cartel members and stash houses, which were used to send drugs secretly to the US. As they traveled across big properties, they remained unaware of the danger that was lurking around them. As soon as they passed Cárdenas' home, a Lincoln Continental and a stolen pickup began chasing them. Tension hung tight in the air as they were chased by several vehicles. After a brief chase, their Bronco was stopped by a convoy, along with a great deal of gunmen holding rifles. Cárdenas hopped out of his white Jeep and appeared in front of the agents. Unsurprisingly, he was carrying a pistol with a gold grip in his waistband and an AK-47 in his hands. He asked the agents to come out of the Bronco and hand over the informant. Fuentes, with unshakable bravery, showed his FBI badge. Cárdenas smiled. He was clearly annoyed by Fuentes' fearlessness. He told them if they didn't surrender, he would shoot them dead. He even pointed his AK-47 at Fuentes' head. But the agents didn't move out of the car, thinking they were dead anyway. Cárdenas gave them one more chance and asked them to remove the informant from their car, but they turned his request down. As a result, his gunmen aimed their guns at them, ready to shoot. Shockingly, Cárdenas stopped his gunmen and asked the agents to leave, saying, "You gringos, this is my town, so get out of here before I kill all of you," and said, "Don't ever come back." The agents then arrived at the US border after the convoy made its way out of there. Arrest, extradition, and sentencing. After this tense standoff, there was a big law enforcement crackdown against Cárdenas and the Gulf Cartel. Both the US and Mexican governments worked together to capture him. Before the standoff, he was known as a minor drug lord in the international drug trade, but this incident made him one of the most wanted criminals in the world. FBI and DEA indicted him of multiple charges and put a $2 million bounty on his arrest. On June 1st, 2001, the US Department of Treasury put Cárdenas' name under the Kingpin Act, among 11 other international criminals for his part in drug trafficking. This way, no US citizen or companies were allowed to work with him in terms of business, and his property and assets in the US were virtually blocked. On March 14, 2003, then 35-year-old Cárdenas was arrested after a shootout between the Mexican military and the Gulf Cartel gunmen in the city of Matamoros. He was sent to high-security prison La Palma. Some believe that he kept running the Gulf Cartel from the prison. He used handwritten notes to control the flow of drugs from Mexico to the US, approved executions, and signed papers to allow the purchase of police forces. He also formed an association with Benjamin Arellano Felix of the Tijuana cartel in the prison.
Inmigración y Aduanas de los Estados Unidos, quienes llevarán a cabo este proceso de deportación. Según algunas fuentes han confirmado que, sería entregado a las autoridades mexicanas.
In 2007, he was extradited to the United States and pleaded guilty to drug trafficking, money laundering, and extortion. In 2010, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison in Houston with the order to pay $50 million by court. No one could witness the sentencing of Cárdenas due to court restrictions. Later, Cárdenas was taken to USP Florence High, then to USP Lewisburg, and finally to USP Terre Haute.
Osiel Cárdenas Guillén ha pasado 24 de sus 57 años en cárceles de México y Estados Unidos.
On August 30th, 2024, Cárdenas was released from prison after completing 14 years of his sentence. It is unclear why he didn't serve the full sentence. However, he was handed into the custody of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, IC. Cárdenas still has several charges on him in Mexico, but it is not confirmed whether he will be transported back to Mexico. A source has said that the Biden administration plans to send him back to Mexico. That sums it up. If you were entertained watching this notorious case of friend killer, give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to share your thoughts about Cárdenas in the comments below, and as always, stay safe out there.